Yeah, so let's deal with this issue a little bit more. And for that, we are joined by the Municipal Demarcation Board CEO, Mr. Manye Moroka. A good evening to you, sir, and thank you so much for joining us. As you see, some frustrated voices coming from community members there in Barberton. This is the thing, though, is that this issue goes all the way back to 2016. This is a 9-year-old issue that has been raised by the community multiple times. And so I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to go back there. Go back to 2016 and from the Municipal Demarcation Board, why this decision was made, despite the contestation 9 years ago, 5 years ago, and even now.
Good evening, Naledi, and your good viewers. Well, 9 years ago, that was what was in the best interest of the area to amalgamate them, thinking that with combined resources, things would be normal. Now, a week ago, I do know that my acting chairperson was on your channel, and he did explain that most of the issues that are being raised presently, point in the direction of a municipality having not done its work in that period. That is the two viewers who spoke before the third one. The third one is saying, well, we went out, we consulted, we thought Umjindi is coming back. That's the presentation they had made. But upon consideration, the board thought that it is best that the two areas remain amalgamated. That's the decision that has been taken by the board. Now, what the MEC there did was to then write a letter to the chairperson, asking the chairperson for a meeting in the coming week, where all stakeholders will be there. It will be the MDB, it will be the municipality, the province, and national, so that the blame game should not be outside of that meeting, but inside that meeting before we even go to the community to see who is at fault here.
Yeah, and that being an important one, because as you hear from the voice, the issue they say is service delivery. So you say you bring all these stakeholders into the room so that the blame game cannot be pointed to outside of this room, but how then do you deal with having all voices there and still have the board decide that the municipalities should remain amalgamated despite challenges that you say are as a result of that decision 9 years ago and service delivery seemingly having failed, according to the community, in that 9 years?
Remember, when we look at outer boundary redetermination or a determination, we use what we call capacity assessments, where the municipality would then tick into the right boxes to say they are fully capacitated. They will be able to render optimal service delivery to the people in the area where such an amalgamation is going to happen. Now, the first speaker is saying that's what they sold to us, and we believe them. But upon implementation thereon, there was no delivery. And that is what we have to look at to say to the municipality, it looks like you are now being told you did not render the services, and that's what we are going to do. As at that time, there was nothing wrong. But what we need to look at is to say, if we do change, will it make things better? But remember, when the board took its decision on the 30th of July and published a circular, their decision is, in law, we call it functus officio. It's a final decision. If people are disgruntled about it, they have to go and apply for a review in a court of law or ask for information through the PAIA Act. But that's just one process where they're going to do that. But when the board took a decision, it weighed on all options. It looked at whether or not will a de-amalgamated Umjindi be better off? And the status was, do we have to do things worse than what it is now? And as the two viewers had said earlier.
See, what you're explaining to me, and I could almost understand the perspective you're coming from, because you're talking about the processes that you need to follow. Unfortunately, though, while you're dealing with a community that was against the amalgamation back in 2016, not just that, 4 years after that, they again took to the streets, they barricaded roads, they demanded services in 2020. So they were arguing a decision that was made in 2016, and even now in 2025, we're talking about speaking to local government and provincial government to ensure that service delivery is there. Surely that is a conversation that could have taken place in 2020. Is that possible?
Well, what I like about what MEC of Kokta and that SPD Mashilo did is exactly that. He's saying, let me bring everybody to the room and let's go and see to what extent is the current challenge a contributing factor to the MDB, to the municipality, to us as a province, or to national. And only after that part, he will then decide whether or not he'll go back to the community and say to the community, this is what we told you in 2016, and we went on to tell you the same story in 2021, and now it looks like it is the same now. But those reasons are best placed within the purview of the MEC.
The sort of consultations that you believe should be taking place with the community members as of now, so the sort of consultative efforts that we can see with residents at this time?
Well, let me also clarify something. It must not appear as though the committees were not consulted. They were consulted prior to decision making. And once that consultation had happened, submissions were made to the board. Communities had another 14 days to object. Well, some did object, but it is those objections which, when the board considered what was before it, felt it best to remain the place must remain amalgamated. But what the MEC will be doing is to say to the community, for you to be fighting about it for now, whilst we are engaging about it, it's not going to help us. Now, you must also remember one thing. To go and do a review application might take longer. But to go and ask for a redetermination is going to happen 14 months from now, soon after the local government elections, which are going to be held somewhere between 2 November 2026 to 2 February 2027, a Wednesday thereon, and the president will determine. So people will do those options. But when it comes to service delivery failures, those are the issues we will present to that meeting to say, look, these things on a balance or on just putting it on a scale, you guys are 80% up there. Let's deal with what you are facing as a challenge as a municipality.
And I know that we might be going backwards a little bit, but I think that it needs a little bit more unpacking, if you'll allow me, because there's the question of how an amalgamated municipality in an ideal setting should improve service delivery. So you're hearing from communities that that's not the case, and you're saying, well, that's what we need to fix. But what is the motivation for allowing the amalgamation to continue, and how that amalgamation in an ideal setting allows for better service delivery?
We're not in the business of putting people in a worse situation than when they were. Now, the SALGA team did a study to say not all amalgamations worked, and this may be one of those. But as to whether or not how the board decided, it is what will come out of the type of a review application where they'll be looking at how they came to a determination and whether or not that determination was in the interest of an individual, interest of a political party, or interest of the community. And in such instances, courts do take a decision. And the decision, when they take a decision, they will say the board was either rational or it was irrational. And if it was found irrational, the court will set the board's decision aside.
Yeah. Well, we'll be watching closely to hear what comes out of that meeting, particularly with local and provincial government, to see how the issues that are being raised by the community, particularly around service delivery, are being attended to. And we look forward to getting feedback from that meeting. Thank you so much.
I'm hoping as well that you will join so that you are there live. And however, because it might be an open meeting as well after that. Yeah, but thanks for allowing me to clarify. Yeah. And you and your viewers. Thanks, Naledi.
Well, we do have our team, Willie Masilela, who is in Mpumalanga, who's been watching the matter very closely, and I imagine will be keeping us updated as well. Mr. Manye Moroka there, who is the Municipal Demarcation Board CEO, speaking to us this evening.